Yeah, Bartek Ogonowski, very Polish sounding name. Originally have roots from Poland and Lebanon. My dad grew up in Poland for a number of years and then moved over to South Africa. So hence the accent that you can probably hear if you know South African accents. So originally from there, I grew up in South Africa for most of my life. I studied CA, Chartered Accountancy in South Africa, and spent a good 7 years at Deloitte. Thereafter, I went into a bit more of an entrepreneurship role, and we started up a company trying to assist with creating jobs in South Africa through a work-at-home telecommunications space, which was pretty cool. And I entered the Oxford MBA about 8 months ago now. Time is absolutely flying. That's where I currently am in the Oxford MBA. I think life's all about these big decisions you've got to make. And one of the biggest decisions I had to make was deferring my MBA. So I actually got accepted to the MBA for the 2021 cohort, which would have already been done 8 months ago. As we all know, COVID hit quite badly. And in South Africa, around March 2020, was when real lockdown started to happen. And there was so much uncertainty about when we're going to go back. Is the MBA going to be normal? I'd already been accepted. I still remember the day I got that email as if it was yesterday. And then for me to have to defer it for a number of reasons, but mainly, because of the COVID effects and what it meant for me at work and promotions, etc. At that stage, I was still at Deloitte, and I decided to defer the MBA and potentially maybe stay at Deloitte for that period of time. And it's funny how these decisions play out, because in that period, I got approached by some friends and colleagues that were starting up a business with Blue Label Telecoms in South Africa that wanted to start a work from home call center. Because of COVID, people weren't going to and from work. A lot of people had lost jobs. South Africa had a very high, at the moment, it's 34.4% unemployment rate, which is ridiculous. And we said, well, what can we do to then actually try assist? And what the company, it's still running, it's called I Talk to You. And it's a work from home call center solution that people can actually get trained up online. And it works the same model as an Uber driver, where the more sales you make in a day, the more commission you earn for those sales. That's it in a nutshell. So basically, that all happened in the period of time where I deferred my MBA, which was a good segue into what I wanted to get effectively from the MBA, which is transiting or transitioning from a corporate role into more an entrepreneurship one. And that medium just, it happens naturally. And sometimes you've got to just take those opportunities in life when they come up. So that was my big thing, to actually enter into this as an entrepreneurship world. And I'm sure we can talk more about it then, but that's currently where I'm focused on, removing myself from a corporate environment into a more risk-taking, world-changing, hopefully, entrepreneurship venture. If I put myself in the shoes of Bartek 8 to 10 months ago, not knowing what to expect, I thought what the MBA would give me is that time to think, that time to rationalize your thoughts, that time to actually step out of your comfort zone a bit and be pushed to new ways of thinking, especially with a global perspective. As I mentioned, I'm at Oxford, which has 71 different nationalities. So all of a sudden, you're starting to learn and think about how the world thinks, and not how only your country or where you're from thinks. And that for me was what I wanted to do. Now that being in it, there are certain, definite skills that I have learned. For example, one of the things we're doing now is negotiations, and we've been taught by an awesome professor who's been involved with real negotiation skills. So, I think coming from a corporate world, you get stuck, and nothing against the corporate world environment, because some people, it's an awesome place to be, but I think you get stuck into your zone, and you start having blinkers on about the outside world and what's actually going on in a certain way. And I think the MBA allows you to have that global experience and that ability to network with people from wherever in the world, to see, how you can make it effectively. Yeah, quite difficult to narrow it down, I guess, to one thing. I do think that there's been so many opportunities in the last 8 months that are presented. And one of the biggest things in life and also in the MBA is about time management and how to choose and prioritize what should come first, what you should get involved with. And anyone you chat to that's done an MBA will say that it's extremely busy, it's extremely hectic, but inherently what you learn in is those skills to prioritize and to make time for what really counts. I've got myself involved in a million different things, and that's also for me been good because I wanted to be pushed out my comfort zone. I wanted to do things that I've never done. I mean, just before this, I was recording a podcast, something that's always wanted to do but never done it. But now I'm recording, other people's MBA's journeys. We've done case competitions for media and entertainment stuff. So I guess it's two things: is being pushed out your comfort zone, but while you're there, you still learn how to prioritize, to not go too far away from your true north or your guiding star and where you actually want to get to. I think that's a really good fundamental life skill. The plan at the moment is fluid. I do eventually want to go back to South Africa, but for now I'm busy trying to also work on some other online education startups, and the network that you all of a sudden get through Oxford and people that have done similar things, not only in the MBA but in the wider university scale as well, is immense and awesome. So that's the plan for now. Being we're actually working on an online platform that will assist with public speaking for corporates at the moment, and that's something that we started to chat to VCs in London. We started to chat to founders. We started to potentially look for funding in a couple of months' time. I mean, that's all exciting things that I never thought I would be talking, like an entrepreneur 10 months ago. So all of a sudden you get into this exciting space and realize that, okay, I'm here. If I don't utilize my networks properly, it would be silly because you're exposed to such a wide array of networks. Going back to your question on Africa, another reason why I chose Oxford specifically is that there's a huge focus and investment on Africa business. In this year's cohort, we have 11% of the cohort from Africa. There's a big African alliance, not only in the business school, but also in the wider university. So a lot of talks, a lot of meetings, there was an Africa forum a couple of weeks ago that was held at the business school. So you're starting to realize how connected Africa can be to the world, and already how much influence, particularly South Africans have had on a place like Oxford. Our main lecture theatre is the Nelson Mandela Lecture Theatre, and at the Saïd Business School. And every time I sit in there, I feel this immense feeling of awe. And I'm sitting in a place where the hero of our nation had some influence, and enough to name the main lecture theatre after him. So that's why specifically Oxford, the Africa focus is big, and hopefully I can take these learnings one day, and it could be in a couple of years or whenever it is, but apply those to help with what I mentioned earlier, the unemployment rate in South Africa, and what I really want to get out of this, of my life journey. I think what the MBA has taught me, or what the MBA is really about, is learning to follow your dreams. And that sounds very cliche sometimes, but I still remember in week 1, we got given a piece of paper and it had 100 jobs on it, random jobs, from rock star to CEO to investment bank. I mean, a wide array of jobs. And the task was choose and prioritize your top 10 jobs, taking money out of the equation, but actually what you're passionate about, and list those in sort of like in terms of your ranking. And it was quite interesting to say, okay, well, I mean, for me particularly, a lot of them were, rock star and Hollywood actor and those, professional MC and those kind of things. And then you start thinking, well, how am I actually geared towards what I'm passionate about, but still trying to obviously monetize it and make it a successful living. And that's the mindset that started creeping in already. And now I'm quite hungry to follow my passion in some capacity, but still make it realistic, if that makes sense. So that for me is big. I think secondly, coming into the MBA, I was quite surprised in a pleasant way to see how many people were still explorers. They kind of put us into different categories based on if you're exploring or accelerating your corporate career, or where you were in your career journey. And there are many people that are actually exploring and make double jumps, or wherever they go from a corporate job into entrepreneurship or vice versa. Or we have professional sports athletes in our class that are jumping into something different. So I think it's that's that idea that you can actually, this gives you a platform to actively follow what you're passionate about and try and make it as successful as a business as possible. That for me has been probably the most important thing. I come from a family of medical doctors, and they all make a tangible, noticeable difference on our society, especially in South Africa, where our training and qualifications are one of the best in the world from a doctor's perspective because of the practical experience you're exposed to. I always had it instilled in my mind to want to make some sort of difference, and still, I think life's also about figuring out what that means. For me, it's really about giving back through education, and I think that's where I'm particularly trying to get into that journey of providing education for people that don't have access to the means and resources that others do. And another thing is that Oxford, particularly the business school, is very impact-driven focus. And I know a lot of the times we're still trying to figure out what that word impact means. And everyone you speak to will have a different understanding or a different definition of what impact really is. But I think impact can mean whatever you want it to be, even if it means, just be making a difference on one or two people's lives that end up, that whole domino effect onto their lives and so on and so forth. So I think impact is something that you need to define yourself what that means. But for me, it's one instilled in my mindset to try assist others. Living in Africa, obviously, I was brought up with that sort of mindset, and now hopefully trying to take my learnings and bring them back to help through education. That for me is the social impact-driven elements. Yeah, so hugely. As I mentioned earlier, I do get myself involved in many things. I'm definitely a yes man, as with most of the MBAs around the world will be very ambitious. No one's forcing you to go study again. And now you all of a sudden with people from around the world that have worked for 6-7 years and studying again to better themselves. One of my biggest highlights, non-MBA related, is I played golf with the Oxford team, and we play a big tradition that we have Oxford versus Cambridge every year for the last 133 years as the main game, and it was incredible to experience that and to actually wear Oxford colours and represent my university against Cambridge. So that's very big. There's a lot of wider university discussions and entrepreneurship forums. There's a blockchain society that the business people in the business school have formed that is breakfast every week with the wider university as well. There's formal dinners at Oxford almost every night, and there's 38 or 39 colleges, and you try to go to as many of the formals through different teams and different people. So that's been incredible. One of the big draw cards of being in Oxford is the Oxford Union, which is our debating chamber. And every week we have amazing speakers or debates. So that's also with the wider university. For example, last week we had Anthony Joshua come speak to us about his professional boxing career. And in that debating chamber, you've had greats like Nelson Mandela to Mother Teresa, and world leaders and politicians that have spoken throughout the years. So getting involved with those has been amazing. A big thing that Oxford also offers you is that you get to wear your sub-fusk and participate in a ceremony called matriculation when you officially enter the university and not the business school. And that was a ceremony we had in mid-October, where you're walking around with thousands of other students, all wearing the same or similar outfits, but all with a sub-fusk, and walking towards the Sheldonian Theatre, which has been around for hundreds of years. And the traditional ceremony of being in there and being officially inducted into the university through a Latin phrase and ceremony is something that's special. So that's particularly why I wanted to go to a place like Oxford, as well, not a big city where you kind of get caught up with other city elements. The actual university itself has played a huge part of my time there. And now for the next couple of months, now that the golf season's actually over, there's things like rowing and fencing and polo. Like different elements of this very traditional British culture that I want to get involved in as well. So yeah, I'm sure I could talk for a lot more, but hopefully you get the picture of it. Particularly strong. We have 16 South Africans in our group, which is awesome. I went to St. John's College back in Joburg, and there's 2 other St. John's guys with me, which is incredible. We didn't know that we were all going different years, but all in there. There's a few from Rodine, a few from Red Hill, a few from like different schools, and we've got our own group, and we have a couple of meetups, and we're organizing we're going to hopefully organize regular braais now in the summertime, and we're trying to get our lingo across to the wider cohort. And there's already some words that more and more people are starting to use that are typical South African words. Promise you not the swear words, but more just the fun the fun words, and just trying to instill our culture there. So I love it, and that's just in the business school. In the wider Oxford University, as I mentioned, there's an African alliance, and there's also many other South Africans that I've met and interacted with. And the moment you hear that accent, it's just like this immediate, my word, this is a sense of home. Who are you? Where you come from? Start making contacts or mutual connections, and eventually you realize that you might know the same people that might have even interacted with that person before. So that sense of home is really important. That I don't think Oxford has the best biltong. They do try to sell it certain pubs, but that's something we can work on. I'm sure my contact details will be shared, and happy to chat more with anyone. But particularly about Oxford is that, well, an MBA and Oxford, is if it's something that you're considering, then do it. I think that what life's taught us, especially over the last couple of years with COVID, is that life is short, it's unpredictable, things happen quickly. You've got to just make the most of that moment and that time. And a lot of people that have actually reached out to me are oohing and ahhing, should I do it, should I not? This GMAT's killing me. How do I get here? All this admin, how do you fit it in? I promise you, by the time when I first walked into Oxford, I had never been before. I just spoken to people and heard about it, and seen photos. But when I first walked in and saw one of the most famous buildings, which is the Radcam, and I looked up at it, and I had this feeling of like I'm completely in awe, and I had goosebumps, and I was like, I'm here, like I've arrived at this place, which I feel like is majestic and awesome, and been in a place that's been around since 1097. I think there's debate on which date officially, but 1097 is a date that the University of Oxford was started, or officially started, which is insane that you're in a place that has a 1,000-year-old history. So I think if anyone's thinking about it, just do it, because it's a year of your life. It goes so fast, and it's been absolutely incredible. And once you're there, just make the most of the experiences, because there's so much that Oxford has to offer, not only in the business school and in the wider university, and that's absolutely incredible, and something you'll never regret for the rest of your life.